Amazing. Welcome,
Uh,
everybody. I'm super excited to have you guys here for this amazing break free event. One of the key distinctions that I always follow through on is making sure how can we live a life where we're truly excited and encouraged welcome, everybody. To super excited to have you guys be creating from this place of abundance, of benevolence, of cultivating meaningful expression. My name's Eric Balance, and I am a conscious entrepreneur, focused on really breaking free and encouraging others to break free on a regular basis because the economy that we create is based off of the actions that we cultivate. And I also am the host of the Resilient Minds podcast. I spent a lot of time with great people around the world interviewing them. And here I have our amazing co-host and co-creator, Joanna. Joanna, welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to spend this time with all of you. Thank you.
Do you want to share a little bit about yourself, Joanna? Your magic as a conscious leader and how you cultivate the wisdom that you continue to bring?
Wow. Thank you, Eric. So when we talk about this conscious leadership, before it didn't really come into my mind until I really met Eric. And then when he talked about this and reminds me about my own journey, start from unconscious state, right? And then start to create with some conscious and now go into the conscious function, which Eric will show you shortly after. So I think that reflects everyone's journey as a leader from when till now. Basically, I am a business system multiplier. I came from a financial planning background, but from there I found there was something missing from the heart. So I started to integrate and align with my energy and my heart. So start to create this business to solve the problem for business owners who wanted to scale up and but providing this fully functional virtual team as a fractional VA service to the other business. So I think down the track, when we actually collaborate further, I will let you know more about myself. But so far, yeah, that's how I am, who I am. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Joanna. You're always amazing and always so full of life. I really appreciate it. So, for those that are watching us live, we welcome you. And for those that are on the recording, welcome because both ways you're going to just get amazing value from this experience. And we're pumped to welcome you through this experience. So, without further ado, I am going to share my screen so that we can get right into it and really focus on bringing value to you. So, the whole thing is really about how do we create our own economy. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we create our own economy by the actual study of economy, meaning economics is the study of human action. And so when we study the actions that we're taking in life, we actually can create our life and live a life by design. And so this is me, I'm all about cultivating a life by design. I've traveled the world, spent time with some of the greatest teachers of our time. But what really has helped me understand is this roadmap of really cultivating my own foundations of awakening. So today I'll take you through these 5 steps of awakening and why they're so meaningful, going from this unconscious creator where we don't really understand ourselves to having a bigger vision and really stepping into this creator vision mentality and fundamentally breaking through to a functional leader in our teams, in our experience, in ourselves, so that we have the courage, the audacity, and the boldness to really be influential in the entrepreneurial world. And when we do that with consciousness and creativity, we actually influence the area and the energies and the verticals that we work in to really step into this integrated approach where we really become unstoppable because we start co-creating with other great leaders. And so I'll be taking you through these 5 stages with harmony, with grace. But, I really have a question for you first, and, this is a question that I always asked myself since I was a little boy. Why am I here? So I would like for you to just take a moment and think about this because this is a profound question to ask oneself since I was a little boy. And I'm curious how many of us actually asks ourselves these questions. Why are you here at this webinar? Why are you here in your job? Why are you here in your life? What and why are you here? What, this is something that just dumbfounded me since I was a little boy. So these decisions, and as I'll go through it, these whys will create decisions, and those decisions will shape our lives. My mentor Tony Robbins, he talks about it's in the moments of decision that our destiny becomes determined. And I think that from this capacity, we start to anchor a change. So being curious about why we're here, I invite you to write it down. Take a moment and just think, why am I here? Why am I here on this podcast? Why am I here in this world? Why am I here genuinely? Because it might provide some insight. And from that question, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name's Eric Balance. You can, here's a QR code to my Instagram. I have a podcast host where, I interviewed over 200 thought leaders from around the globe on different topics, dynamics, verticals, business, health, mindset, development, called the Resilient Minds Podcast, where I've spent time with some of the most world-renowned names. And I've learned a common thread is that the most meaningful things that most of these people will do if they had 3 days left to live is they would spend time with family. And so for me, that was something that was created actually by, stepping into being and being involved so deeply with Tony Robbins and the community. I felt like I was family. I felt like I was part of this family, and I wanted to extend that energy of family to others. And that's what drove me to really come back to conscious business design and how can we really design business as a force for good. And that's what I'm excited to talk about because, we need to understand where we are in our evolution as artists, as evolution as creators, our evolutions as humans. And, I was a visionary. And I invite that most people don't see the difference between a visionary or artist. But I really think that it's pretty similar. It ultimately defines is a creative that paints their masterpiece. This is me a few years ago in Australia. Sachin Govender, for those that may know him, he's here being interviewed. And this is me a couple of years ago or 3 years ago in Ibiza. So living in Ibiza, discovering different parts of myself, playing on this playground. But what it was, and every single time it was me evolving as my own journey because I wanted to get curious. And that's what I'm inviting today is curiosity. Curiosity to see if do you have momentum in where you want to go. Because if we take our experience, and what I say is turn our X factor into our Y factor, this is something that I really fundamental have created in my podcast, The Resilient Minds, is each of these experts I've talked to them, these thought leaders I've talked to, and I said, hey, like, how do you taken your X factor, your experience of your life, and really driven that into your why? And where did you start? So I ask you today, have you taken the time to think about these things? And if not, then why not? And if you have, and you're thinking about, well, what's the next step because you haven't thought about it or you have thought about it and you're like, I want to take action. So where do you start? And here's why we're going to help you, because this is exactly what we're here to support you with, is where do you start now? So I really have known, sovereignty is a really key component. So I've created the sovereign mindset, and we'll go through, fundamentals of those. Created the business nirvana strategy. And these two concepts for me have become the ways of my being. They're no longer beliefs in my life. They are my experience. And that's why I believe that business is the ultimate spiritual game that we get to integrate through a responsible role in the way that we cultivate wealth. And so I believe that wealth is a 5-dimensional component. It's based off of, spirit, it's based off of intellect, it's based off our social skills, our human, vitality, and fundamentally our finance. And I would encourage us to discover and recognizing that there is a new worldview. But the first way that we start to cultivate this true wealth, this conscious wealth from within, is we need to get clear on what you want and why you want it. Because when you have that clarity, you become a channel. We become a channel of good, a force for good. And when we recognize that we have certain amounts of time and we devote our time to the things that are our priorities, we can really make sure that we don't get distracted. And as a result, we focus on what matters. And as Tony would say, where focus goes, energy flows. And so these are the things that I'm going to invite into you today, is to really take a moment and just like put your phone down, put your distractions away. Let's get focused. Let's take time, the next 60 minutes to really just get clear, because this is what's going to give you the capacity to truly step up in your life, create your economy, and design the life that you really want from the inside out, not waiting and hoping that it's from the outside in like we've been taught over, hundreds of years, but instead focusing on the true nuances of what's most meaningful to you. And that's what I'm excited to share today, because this is how we create vision. So we get into a space of focus, we get inspired with our ideas, and then we unify in teams. And this is how we start to cultivate a way more functional approach of what's possible in this reality, meaning in this world, in this playground called life. And we can see things as they are, not worse than they are, see them better if we want, and be willing to make them better. And that is the power of intelligence. This is not some positive psychology perspective. This is an intelligent outlook on what is possible. And I encourage you to really evolve. This is an evolution for you, for me, for our kids, for everyone around us, and our businesses, and how we choose to operate. So, with that being said, I'm curious. Is this what we all want? We want momentum. We probably want momentum in our business. We probably want momentum somewhere in our lives, our health, our vitality, our relationships. And one of the things that I am going to encourage is, if we're here to cultivate momentum, first thing we really need is clarity. In anything that we do, we need absolute clarity. And fundamentally, if we're going to apply this type of clarity into our business, well, we want to make sure that we want to take the time to capture the people, the clients that we're meant and destined to serve. So, have you thought, who are those people? Who do you want to work with? And why do you want to work with them? Because once we start to get clear on those people, we can actually convert people that we don't know and we do know into leads that really give us the opportunity to reach out and generate a direct ability to connect with them, so that we have an opportunity to generate deals and income that deliver our unique mechanisms, our unique ways, our why, our X factor, our experience, to really drive profitability. And from that profitability, we can start to retain what matters most, which is, people that are relatable in our marketplace, people that could be raving fans, and eventually they become referrals because they can't stop raving about and talking about us. And that's where advocacy shows up. This is what I call business nirvana. And this is how we start to create monthly recurring revenue. So who's excited? Make sure you just drop it in the chat, or if you're watching this, get out of your chair and start getting excited, because it's gonna be fun. And I know that from this place, you'll start generating real impact. You know why? Because I know that when we communicate with clarity and we discover our heart's wisdom, the more of us can identify to our own true essence, we start to see things that most people don't see. And that's where true service shows up. Service is not about being a servant. It's really about showing up in a place of total congruency, in wanting to serve others with absolute benevolence. And from that way, that is what's activating our purpose. And that means that whatever comes through, it comes through you. It's not as a byproduct of what you do. It's about the fact that you're doing it. It's the fact that you're being it, that you're showing up in this nature. And those people, those servant leaders, the people that, really discovered this for me were my parents. These two people right here are the world's greatest healers. They're the two people that have always believed in me. They're the two people that never stopped believing in me, and they continue to believe in me. And, when I was a young boy, I ended up getting into some trouble, getting into the wrong crowd, and ended up, selling drugs, going to rehab, becoming a drug addict. And these two people stood by me the whole time. And I think that we oftentimes forget the magic of the people that are closest to us, because most people are looking out there for validation. And what I realize is that those beliefs for validation are really just doubts. And those doubts actually create their beliefs in themselves. And that's why they don't truly show up, because they don't show up for the people that are closest to them first. And in fact, they don't even show up for themselves. And this was me. This is really my story, because I wasn't able to show up for myself. And so my parents were the mirror that I needed to say, hey, it's time to wake up. You can do better. You can do this for your future self. And it's from that place that we start to create total congruence from the inside out. Because this is really how I felt. I felt unseen, unheard, ununderstood. I went to school as a young boy, and the world kept telling me, that money is more important. So of course, the badass that I was at the time, I looked for outlet ways to make easy money. And guess what? That was a way of selling drugs. And yes, that was me. That's what I did. And it took me to a place where I felt very uncertain in my life. I felt very scared. And those experiences, they really, when I went to rehab and I spent time with my parents, I got really curious. And that curiosity was like, my dad asked me a question and he said, hey, Eric, if you can't do this for me or for your mom or for even yourself, can you do this for your future self? And that was a breakthrough opportunity for me, because what it gave me was the ability to take action. And it was through the action that I actually stepped into a new narrative in my life. It created a little bit of power, a lot of power, in fact, because what it gave me is the ability to say, hey, I can do something about my life. I can take charge. I can make a change, and I don't need to be a victim. I don't need to feel like I'm blaming everyone else. I can actually step up for myself. And this to me is something that allows us to cultivate a way more meaningful approach, because from here we start to see a bigger and greater vision. And these visions are something that happen in all of us. This wasn't just me, it's like, hey, Eric, you had a bigger vision for yourself. Congratulations. Your parents woke you the fuck up, and thank goodness they did, because without them, I'd probably be dead or in prison. And this vision was something that I started to see. It was like almost an existential experience that outside of me, something came to me and it's like, hey, can you actually step up for a future version of yourself that really needs you, that really believes in you, that really trusts in you? And, after spending time, with my parents, it gave me the opportunity to start building trust in myself, in the ability to create, and to be ability to see, and to build trust. And so the trust factor is like, hey, how can we actually develop that level of trust? And what I mean when I'm saying that trust is like, can you build it with yourself? Because ultimately, when you build it with yourself, it's easy to also build it online. And the trust factor, nowadays, especially when everybody and their dog has information to offer, right? It's so important that the world, they're starving, for wisdom and drowning in information. So it's so important to really be developing this level of trust, this consistency, and it's in that stage that will start to really cultivate a deeper resonance, because the more you do something, the more credible you become. And so by sharing the story, by sharing the consistency, it starts to help you identify. And so, when I was growing up, I didn't understand this. I didn't understand what trust meant. I thought, just family, you gotta trust the family, take care of the family. But like what does that really mean internally? How can we really honor? And I remember my dad telling me, trust is like if you can be in integrity, if like when you say your word, you follow through. And like, so how are we showing up online on our socials? How are you showing up and creating awareness about what you're doing, whether that's in person or online? What's the authenticity that you're bringing to the table and the consistency that you're doing that? Because that stage of really allowing you to be in this solution mindset, passionate, inspired, and connected to yourself, people then feel you, and they don't think that you're talking about something out of the top of your mind. They know that it's coming from a personal experience. And so I encourage us all to really step into this vulnerable, just like I'm doing with you right now, for example, about my past, and getting into some of the struggles that I did, because that also is something that is vulnerable. It's something that maybe resonates with you, maybe it doesn't, maybe it allows you to see, wow, this guy really stepped up. Or maybe it's like, oh, I don't know, this guy's bullshit. Whatever you decide is reality. But the point is that those of you that really feel me, and those of you that really sense the authenticity, that's who's gonna know, like, and trust me, right? And that's how we build momentum. Because I told you at the beginning, how are you building momentum? The momentum comes from building emotion. So you feel me based off of the experience that I'm projecting into your reality from the inside. You're feeling my energy. You're sensing my reality. You are sensing my congruency because it's something that I've experienced. I couldn't, if I was, we all have bullshit meters, right? We all can tell what's true and what's not true, right? So we sense this stuff, and it's beautiful to be able to take care. It's about being aware of those different emotional sensors within ourselves so that we can activate our true essence. And from here, we get to create an emotional relationship with ourselves and even something greater than ourselves. And from here, you'll start to really establish the clarity with what you are wanting to achieve with your life, you know? Because this establishment, this ability to really connect to what you want to achieve is what's going to allow you to then resonate. Okay, so how can I communicate with the people, that maybe desire something or understand, something, or have fear of something else? Because usually, most of the time, what we're doing is we're speaking to ourselves 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, depending on where you're at. And I believe that sometimes most people, and again, I'll speak for myself, I thought that for such a long period of time that I needed to speak to the audience's like mind and their focal point of what I believe they needed. But what I really needed to do is just to understand myself. And as a result, I can actually start to resonate with people through my own experience. So I know that this is counterintuitive because most people will say, oh, you need to know your ideal client. And the ideal client oftentimes is you. I know, again, it sounds counterintuitive, but take it on for a moment. Why do you keep growing? Why do you keep wanting to serve? Why do you keep getting curious about the parts of you that maybe aren't anchored in yet? Because you want to become that version. And so by you developing that version of yourself and consistently practicing in private, you will eventually become rewarded for it in public. And that's the differentiator that most people don't understand, is that we don't actually ever become perfect. Perfection is the lowest standard that any of us have that is available because it doesn't exist. So what's important is that we start just taking action. And because from that place of vulnerability and authenticity and saying, hey, I'm scrappy, but I'm making it happen. I'm figuring out as I go. That's what makes people fans because they're like, fuck, that person's showing up no matter what. They're raw, they're real, they're rich from the inside. And that's what makes people want to spend their energy, their time, their money with you. That's what makes people excited to want to work with you because it's real. And that reality becomes your personal reality. That reality becomes your ways of showing your personality. And so when you step into that, you become a fully fledged conscious leader. And that personality is your embodiment. And with that, I think it'd be important for us to really recognize how important our proximity is, the people around us. And so, speaking of people around us, I'd love to invite Joanna to talk a little bit about this emphasis of stepping into great teamwork and highlighting great people to really rise up alongside them as a functional leader and how you've done it in your business. Can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm on now. Right. So thank you, Eric. First of all, I was very emotional when you share your first date because I could really resonate with that because everyone had some past that bring what we are today. So just express my emotion for a bit. But when we're talking about a functional, and when we look at the unconsciously unseen and consciously creating up to the conscious functional, as I mentioned earlier, that was my journey exactly. Because when I started a business, I was like a title leader. Title leader is like, I am the founder. You listen to me, right? Like it's very unconscious, like in a way that I feel like that's the position, and then you got to just listen. And then I'm at that stage, and then that was a bit lacking of my own acceptance and understanding of my own myself, and caring about myself. That's at that stage. When I started to really work on myself, started to be conscious and understand what my heart lies in, I started to move into a serving leader mode. Like when I started to care about other people, I started to provide a support because I wanted to provide that kind of support to myself. And I started to have the warmth and I have the, how to say, the encouragement and the motivation inside of me because that's the feeling I wanted to give myself and to give it to the others. And now because I'm in the stage of started to be functional and I feel like it's in the spiritual leader stage that we wanted to balance the giving and the boundary. It's like because functional is more like how things functional is it sounds like very logical. However, we need to have a certain balance to maintain the stability. If we're only looking forward at the logical side, it can be very harsh and very tough, and sometimes lack of the warmth. But if we're only giving the serving and without a boundary, we're getting hurt, like the things will push back and then it just won't get a result. So now I'm practicing, especially in this functional phase, I'm personally self practicing the balance between the compassion and boundary and make it functionally well with sustainability and stability. And that comes into the how important we work with others as a team. And we have all different people around us. And now I realize when I personally experienced that journey, I started to be able to share my experience with others and guide others to go through that stage. Like what Eric experienced, he had that experience and he flipped around. He has such a strong strength to show the others, if I could do it, you can do it too. Like that kind of thing. So I personally feel like we got to experience that journey, accept our own journey, be patient, become the best version, the better version of ourselves. Then we have the strength and ability to guide others. And that ultimately come to um, all from ourselves. I feel like, yeah, accepting, caring, and forgive, support. understand everything start from ourselves, and then we can start to have this capacity and the love and warmth with the self-love boundary to spread this love out. um yes, that's what I feel so far. I hope that that's helpful. Anything
So
else I need
beautiful.
to be added? Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. And I think that really you're bringing this integration so well, and really this harmonious way of, balancing our uh, expressive state and our internal state, our inner world and our outer world, and also how we're continuously allowing the giving and receiving. As leaders, I think this is a very important responsibility to be pay attention to, and to be okay with also be willing to say, hey, these are my needs. This is what needs to be fulfilled for me to actually be able to truly serve. And that I think is a great way to activate true influence, because from that place, we actually build a true change of dynamics. And I think that one of the biggest things that I've realized is that healthy mirrors, or the ability to have great people around us, or having great role models specifically, it allows us to then activate our deeper intuition to feel safe, certain, and secure. Because what we're doing is we're learning by observing, by being curious, by talking, by having conversation, by having great dialogue with people that are living at a different level than us. And I think that that's been something that has been a catalyst in my growth, because it's given me the opportunity to say, hey, where do I need to ask myself better questions? And I think that this is something that most people we might struggle with, is the quality of our questions. And so the common theme here that I really want to emphasize, we have Joanna here, and is who we spend time with is who we really become. The people that, we want to really cultivate or be around, get a great, go find them, go spend time with them, go invest into them, go invest into yourself to be coached by them. Because this is something that allows you to really learn from, take, decades and turn them into days, genuinely. Because what it does is it creates certainty in your being, because you recognize that frame of reference is so close to you. And that is where this proximity is power. People feel the power faster than anything that you can say. And that is something that, you can't take away from anybody, is their feeling. I always said, if you follow the feeling, that's what will help you activate true freedom. And my father taught me one great thing. I mean, many great things, but this one great thing was one of the most meaningful parts, is always trust in your heart. This is a wise man, if it feels good, you go do it, no matter how hard it is. And it's something that is absolutely courageous. So from that place, you can always give much more than we ever expect. And those expectations actually, trade for appreciation. These are things that, again, I've had the blessing of learning from my mentor, which is Mr. Tony Robbins. These are the things that he's given me as a gift to really stand tall on, and stand on his shoulders, so that I can continue to navigate in a place of complete authenticity, complete congruence, complete alignment. And I owe him a lot of this energy, because he's given me a great role model that I needed, alongside my father, don't get me wrong. And uh, my needs during that time were also Tony, like he's business leader, business creator, transformational change, really making an impact. And this is a different form of role modeling that I needed to really step up in myself. And in this picture, I actually tell Tony, I say, Tony, I'm going to carry on your legacy. And as you can see, I was extremely serious. And he smiled at me and he said, Eric, you're going to create your own, brother. You don't even know how great it's going to be. And he just encouraged me. And he said, you've got it in you. You've got it around you. I can see it, and I didn't even know what the heck he was talking about at that time because I didn't see it. So how could I understand what he was talking about? And this comes from being just so much in my logical mind to not really understanding the feeling. Even my dad told me even so many things, like it just didn't make sense because I was so focused on these external realities, because that's how I was taught a long time is in school, is saying, the external world. And so we don't get taught this inner experience, this inner trust, this inner knowing. And, I really, from that place, that's why I focus on what's the heart set, what's the experience that we give ourselves, our X factor to tap into this why. Because if we understand our experience and we understand our why, then what it does is we bridge together our beliefs and our experience. And as Tony says so beautifully, a belief is a poor substitute for an experience. Once it's an experience, it's who we become. So, one of the key things here is how can we educate, entertain, empower the reality around us so that from this place, we're in total convergence of stepping into our greatest mission, our vision, our alignments. Because that's where the playfulness, that's the excitement, that's where the joy comes. And guess what? From that place, a sincere transmission of implementation of knowledge, of unwavering belief becomes who you are. And that is what makes us true entrepreneurs, true influence, leaders of influence. Because it's not about being an influencer, it's actually about influencing yourself enough to being able to go into any environment and influence it. Once you've gone into multiple different environments around the world, and I've traveled the planet now multiple times and put myself in very different circumstances and different scenarios and different experiences and different environments. And in every single environment, I was able to fully show up with that level of certainty because I was coming from the inside. I didn't let the external world to influence me. It was the internal world that was giving me strength, conviction, and security to really step into my voice and own it. And that's when we step into the next component, is really integrating, being fully unstoppable in our integration, where we actually now start to harmonize with other great leaders around the world, and we start to recognize that we can share responsibility, we can share opportunities, we can share resources, and things start to change. And so this is not an easy path, by the way. This is not like a 1, 2, 3 done step path. This is a challenge. And in fact, it's also a journey. It's a quest. So this experience starts to become where we start to desire, oftentimes our growth journey to be right to the top. But if we have our vibrational frequency, Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, just follow frequency, energy, and vibration. And the vibrational frequency of our evolution and our process as we start to create it, it starts to revive an important part of our inner world. And that actual growth curve starts to evolve and brings out our true essence. When this essence becomes exposed and we own our voice, we own our presence, we own our sincere ability to show up, it allows us to go to any environment, as I mentioned, into any community at any vibrational frequency, and we're able to elevate ourselves, but not before we actually fall down ourselves. So that means that we actually hit, rock bottom multiple times before we can ever actually evolve to the next stage, which is full abundance. And so it's in this full abundance that we have to remember to stay in that momentum. Because oftentimes, if we don't, what will kick back is that scarcity mentality. So we want to stay in that elevated state of abundance because this circle actually is a spiral, and that spiral continues to weave us up towards a higher paradigm or a higher state of consciousness. If you're unaware about the states of consciousness, I'm not with you, But what I am going to say is to really go and have a peek about, Dr. Hawkins, spiral dynamics, and even recognizing there's a beautiful book about reinventing organizations by Frederick Laloux, that also talks about the teal type of organizations, that stay in this benevolent state. And again, as I mentioned, it's in this benevolent state, it's in this congruent state of opportunity that we start to actually build a true meaningful organizational approach. And again, I'm not going to get into that today because there's a lot of insight here, but the point is those are the conscious integrators. Is the higher that we go in the culture of paradigm, the more that we can integrate into our businesses, those teal organizations actually stay and take a lot more responsibility in the way that they choose to show up, because what it gives is it gives people the perspective that they are part of something. And when people feel like they're part of a greater culture, they're a part of a greater mission, then people want to move with you. They want to help, they want to serve. And so let me just get back into here. What's important is really making sure that we stay in this place, because we can all do it. We can all create lasting change. I did it, I'm doing it. I consistently do it. Joanna does it. We can all do it. We just need to be able to go against the status quo, because that is, how are we going to show up maybe on our podcast, on our Instagram, on our YouTube, Facebook groups, because that's what's going to cultivate the communication. That's what's going to navigate change. And the sooner that we discover our heart's wisdom, own our essence, create engaging solutions, focus on leadership, the sooner we will activate our purpose. So, with that being said, it's important that you can, if you have a vision today, in 3 months, step into a functional reality. You can change that fast, because change can happen in a moment. It's about taking the consistent action, right? So I'm curious, Joanna, when you go from this vision, or when you had these visions, what was it that made you feeling in this functional state? And then what again made you step into more of this influential component?
Very good question. Um, I think for me, everyone probably from vision to functional has different life lessons. For me, just for me as example, but I think probably everyone can reflect your cycle. For me, I'm a doer. I'm a natural doer. I'm just like if something happens, boom, I'll just get it done. And then I get it done, and then I feel about it, and then I go to the last piece of strategy. Then I realize I did the other way wrong. I always did something happen, but I couldn't really get the result I want. And I realized, oh, I didn't do the right priority. So then when I from which vision I have this kind of picture, and then I go to the functional, I realize the strategy is in between. Like I have a picture first. I really want what I want, right? Like Eric mentioned. Then I need to really have a plan, and like mentors like Eric and some other, strategists to help us from A to B. This plan is a bridge, is a foundation. And then with that, based on that, and with the right resources and teamwork and whatever it is, then we can implement on it, make it happen. And that's for me, I feel like it is my transition from visionary to functional. And for a lot of other people, probably is the other way around, what I found. Because I'm not a doer, right? Because I noticed many of clients I deal with, or many people I deal with, is that they probably, first of all, of course, it's important to have a picture. Then they learned a lot, but then they don't do it. So that's the missing piece there. Probably some people experience that. I learned too much and I don't know where to start. Yeah, and then there's another thing that probably we can place the priority of where to start to really make things happen. I think in this particular moment, probably just think to yourself, what is your style? And think about what is the missing piece. Find the resources and people around you to make it happen. I think that will be my goal. Yeah, really understand where we at and what exactly is missing. Yeah.
I like what you're sharing because there's a big indicator too from that getting to that functional state, and from that functional state to the entrepreneur or the influential state.
Mm,
What happens is it's all becomes a state of resourcefulness. And
for sure.
that level of resourcefulness allows us to truly must influence people. And though that level of influence people is a very resourceful state to be in, because we're consistently capturing energy from something greater to consistently know that there is something greater we're operating from. And as a
Mm,
result, it allows us to actually truly be in the way that there is never a lack of it. There's always a benevolence. And that state of opportunity gives us true conviction to move up into those state of higher states of awakening, because what it does, it allows us to operate with such clear and consistency without the need of being blocked. And again, focus goes where energy flows, and physiology is completely shifted. So as a result, we just go and we just make things happen. And so that
mm,
comes from probably a great practice, a great mentor, a great strategy. But one of the things that, I really believe is it comes down to our energy. It comes down to our state, and to really understanding that, hey, how are we going to really move our bodies, take care of our vitality, learn to really express ourselves fully, because from that place, we can actually have the energy to create whatever we want. And that's the biggest distinction that I found, is really stepping in from the capacity of functional to
mm.
influence.
On that, can I add one point? Because I had
Please.
a feeling of, because currently is my stage is growing from functional to influential, right? But my
Yeah.
personal experience that I don't know whether that resonate with others is that previously when someone asked me, who do you want to be? I want to be an influencer. Why? Why? A lot of people think about this influencing is from external factor. Is that because of fame, power, money, or the some status? And some people like if I want to talk about my personal feeling is a transitional from functional to influential stage for myself is the intention, is the alignment. I feel like previously if I looking at outside factor that doing all the social medias, doing podcasts or even on the PR presses is if my intention is for the attractions or maybe put myself as a star, it just doesn't happen. It how to say fulfillment is not there because it's something external, something is like superficial. The strength is not from here. And now probably because when I started to really understand my why is to really spending this love and doing my soul mission to pass this love out, working with team and members, and I realized I have a message to convey. And when this intention started to go in from within to out, align myself. And I found the universe just make things naturally happen. Influence is just become a word. It's just it's not a result anymore. It's how to say it's a natural state we flow into when we become that kind of person with that heart and intent, true pure intention of passing this message and love out. We naturally shine. We just naturally shine. First of all, naturally shine. Then all the other resources just naturally come around like a puzzle, integrate together and help us to become that kind of version, deliver that energy and a message. And that's just how I feel.
And it's
Anything
true.
to add?
It's true because it's very true. And I love that you bring it up, because it's a key distinction, right? Like, again, most people want to, they look at influencers, but that's not a true influence. The influence comes from people that are taking action on going
Mm,
from the inside and creating meaning, right? The influencer, that has all the followers and is not using them as a force for good is not a real influencer, right? The real influential people are coming from the way of their being. And that is the big distinction. So, I think it's important, and I'm grateful that you brought it up, because most people they get into this place where they really think that, influential is being an influencer. And once that breaks through and you discover that there's a way greater meaning to your responsibility to influence the team, the company, the community, the organization, the nation, the world, then what happens is that you step into a place where you start to co-create with other influential entrepreneurs, and then you really become unstoppable, because those levels are 2 millimeter shifts, as Tony would say. But the truth is that that shift is a major trajectory change. That shift is one of the biggest changes that really take us. And so it's why important, that we intentionally connect with each other. We really get curious about, one another. So I would invite, whether you're, on right now or watching the playback, please take the time to jump into our Conscious Collective Facebook community. And I would invite you to step into this narrative of expressing ourselves fully, and where you were or where you come from. Put your phone up and express yourself, share it in the community, and get yourself out there so people can start to get to know you, because this is going to be a great way to intentionally connect with other great people, to really put yourself out there that are also understanding where you're coming from, and talk about some of your struggles. Get out of your comfort zone. Like, this is an opportunity to go into the Facebook group, say hello, invite yourself, talk about where you were, where you came from, what some of the struggles you've experienced, how have you overcome those struggles, and as a result, what is it that you do now? Because that's what's going to allow people to kind of nurture towards you. And if you do that in a community that feels safe, that is, available, that is there, you're not going to have any worry. It's just going to be me and a bunch of people that have also done it. So as a result, I encourage you to really check it out, because it's time to get out of your comfort zone. It's time to really share your superpower and really provide that value into the Facebook group. Provide that uniqueness into the Facebook group. And from that place, it's going to be what allows you to face the fear, do it anyway, because you chose to be resilient in your experience, and find a way. And listen, I think that that's the biggest way that we get to learn is, it's in times of the biggest challenges, right? It's in time of the biggest uncertainties that we actually step into resolve, and we find a creative way to find consistent, congruent action. Or do we fall back? Do we fall back into an old pattern? And so this is where we call the real change, because that's where the accelerator and how you can step into this accelerator. And so, with us, you can join, and, we have a membership site. We go through immediate access. We work on some of your social light and how you can really bring this through a high leverage session. Tap into that emotional mastery. We can even talk about some of the brand strategy that you activate to bring clarity to the masses, and make sure that we step with you to really serve you. Because, I used to be no one. I didn't have a clue, but eventually I started to become seen as an online authority. People looked at me and said, wow, like, you always figure it out, man. You always are able to come up with some sort of a plan, and it's structured and it's clean and it's logical and it makes sense. And so now I really help conscious leaders and their teams step into their highest selves, so they can create this impact. They can create this influence within, around them, and their environment. And, you can do this, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to take your experience, and you need to recognize that that is what has determined your why. And that experience is your story. And sharing that story with boldness, with audacity, with precision, and with trust is what's going to allow you to really start cultivating this type of funnel. And I know, most people are like, I don't like marketing, and I don't like, but Peter Drucker, one of the great management consultants of our time, he talks about this. He talks about the two things that are going to change your business are marketing and innovation. So I don't care who you are, and if you want to make a change, and if you want to activate a really key momentum in the way that you show up, enjoy marketing. And you know what? Once you realize that you're not marketing, that it's actually just who you're being, you realize that, hey, it's not actually that bad. So my encouragement is to really step into this narrative so that you change an opportunity or create an opportunity to take people that don't even know who you are and guide them on a path where they can become your biggest, most raving fans. Because from that place, you'll start to take people that were completely unaware in the challenges that you had or in themselves. And by your education, you'll be able to take them through an awareness pathway to really take and give them a responsibility of their own evolution, offer them an opportunity to evolve their presence to a place where they didn't know that they needed the help that you can give them. And from that place, you focus on, again, creating an emotional relationship. Generate that momentum, establish clarity with what you are wanting to achieve. Capture those desire of the people at the top of the funnel, the people at the top that desire and they need you as the optimal audience. Those are the people that you really want to serve. Recognize that you are able to speak to them as your ideal client. In other words, you 5 years ago, as I mentioned earlier, oftentimes that's our ideal client. Because when people are fans, again, they will spend money with you. And so taking the ability to really focus on optimal audience and generating the ideal client, it'll take, again, this experience of your life, activate the why, so that you educate, empower, and entertain the people around you to transform them into your vision. So eventually they have this unwavering belief in themselves. And from that place, it's like, hey, how have we grown? We've grown through different offerings. We offer results in advance in different ways. We have programs, live trainings, online workshops. This is one of the workshops. And eventually, we all at the bottom of the funnel, we got the compassionate executives that we get to work, one-on-one, or go into their organization. And so these are the meaningful approaches or ways that people can work with us. But I'm going to talk about Eurus, who, he's a great guy. He came to me curious about ways to really evolve his business, his way of being. He's a great senior leader on the Tony Robbins experience. But this man is just a great man. And I'll let the video tell itself.
Just drop in here some summarize my experience with Eric. So I myself I'm a fitness coach, I'm a personal trainer. I got a master's degree in sports nutrition. I got all these many things that kind of helped me out to establish myself in my little niche, but I am extremely hands-on driven. So when I started to work with Eric, it was just before all the craziness kicked in with lockdowns and whatnot. So it was perfect timing, but it started slightly slow, and then it came to me that I am extremely good at doing completely different things. And I just literally changed my approach completely whilst working with Eric, took my business online. And within a couple of weeks, I was able to close just new clients within a heartbeat. It's just amazing. So, and what he offers you, he's selling himself short. 100%. He's always on it to give you results. So, and it's only as much as you put back. And I would definitely not think twice. And I should have done it a year earlier than now. And I would advise anyone who's even slightly kind of on a fence, do they need this, do they not? This experience will blow your mind. I can guarantee you that. It's like literally you're going to change the way you think, the way you work, and the way you feel about yourself and your work. So don't think twice and get this stuff on and just commit 100%, and you'll not regret it. just over the years and
good old Eurus. You know, but I don't want to stop there because you know, there's another amazing woman that also she really found some really great results. And you know, I think that, you know, this is another really powerful, strong woman that I've also learned ton from, and she really just adds a lot of unique value to the world.
Hi, my name is Asha Honeysett. It's a pleasure to talk about the benefits of and being under the guidance of Eric over the last 3 months. When Eric asked me to put together a short video on everything that I've learned, I realized I was in trouble when I started to run out of fingers. So I thought I would leave it to the biggest lessons that I have been fortunate enough to receive over my time working with Eric. Number one, Eric cares. If you want a coach that's going to show up for you and to put his heart and soul into your project just as much as you are, then you have come to the right place. If you want a community of elite individuals who will not rest until their mission has been served, you're at the right place. If you want to have a treasure trove of all the gems that the leaders before us have left in their path, then you've come to the right place. Is the best of practice, methodology, and philosophy to get you to where you want to go. And when you have big visions, a big heart, and you really want to serve people in the best way, you need someone who has already walked before you and can walk beside you in developing wherever it is that you're at. I have certainly received that in my time of working with Eric, and I can't recommend this course highly enough, no matter where you are on scaling your business. So it's been a privilege, and I look forward to seeing you all in the community. Bye for now.
So one of the key distinctions that I think that all of us really must remember is that it's about action. It's really about action. Life is about action. And, you know, this is something that Joanna shared, Eurus shared, Asha shared. It's about taking action. Life is about action. So today, I encourage you to just take action. Take action, because life without action, you know, they say it's kind of like we're sleeping. So what about we continue to just focus on creating change and stepping into that by getting involved? You get immediate access, membership site, home study library, emotional mastery, social media, clarity. So my encouragement, just schedule a call. Scan this, take a moment, scan this, schedule a call with me. We can go through innovation session where, you know, we really dive deep to discover yourself, discover what your needs are, discover how we can really serve you. And from this place, we'll really start to cultivate a meaningful way to navigate what is in benefit for your business, your relationships, your health, your vitality, your way of wanting to show up. And from that place, from that state of certainty, you'll be able to know the exact next path, the exact next step. And if you decide to join the Conscious Wealth Accelerator or any other program, you'll learn at least fundamentally to step into your highest sense of self. And with that, I bid you a beautiful day. Joanna, did you want to add anything else?
Well, I think I trust the divine timing and synchronicity of the energy bringing people together one day realize there's something important in their life. And I believe that if anything resonate with you from today's talk, that means something in your heart wanted to really do something with it. So like what Eric mentioned, follow your heart and then take the action is very important, because if we don't actually step out the first step, we never know what's going to happen next. And there's always no harm to give ourselves the opportunity to step out to see what it is, and then we can go further. So we sincerely welcome every one of you to join the community and to be on this journey together. We can collaborate, exchange ideas, and grow together. And then that's our sincere wish with every one of you. Thank you.